So I wasn't aware until extremely recently that you can go on the city of Sacramento's webpage and look up the helicopter activity log.
Extremely recently being like 17 minutes ago.
Yeah, like very, very recently. Which is kind of fun, honestly. And it does, like, most of it isn't really that exciting. Like, it's like, for instance, you know, in Meadowview, 8:17 p.m. last Friday, helicopter monitoring a car sideshow in the area of I don't know, Delta Shores Circle or something.
I like how I just monitored it.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Like
monitored some car sideshows, but usually from the land, not from the air when I do it.
Well,
Not on taxpayers' dollars.
Not, yeah, exactly.
So what happened after that? Where did the cop go?
Well, here's the thing. See, after monitoring the sideshow, they got a call at 8:41 p.m. in Colonial Heights. Responded to the area of San Francisco Boulevard and 56th Street for reports of hearing sounds of a possible prowler.
Yikes.
That area is known for prowler sounds.
Yeah, voracious prowlers. Yeah.
What sounds do prowlers make?
What is prowling exactly? And, like, can you get in trouble for it? Like,
so you're like looking in a window, like, "Ooh, I'm going to take that."
Yeah, isn't it just like hanging out outside of a building and like looking at it?
It doesn't strike me as illegal.
I mean, I can see how you would. It is like the lead up to maybe something illegal could happen if there's a bunch of prowling happen, I guess. But this isn't Minority Report, and that's not how things work. So, well, I mean, and
so did they catch the prowler?
Well, they did, sort of, in a manner of speaking. The rest of this is after responding to the reports of a possible prowler. Officers located a gaze of raccoons making the noises. No prowler. Which technically
they were prowling.
They were prowlers. I don't think you can say no prowler, because if there was a gaze of raccoons, is that actually what you call a group of raccoons, a gaze?
I mean, I don't know why this cop would know that.
Well, maybe the person who writes the log knows about it. Maybe you have to know, like, what different groups of animals are called in order to get the job.
This is
it's like not
their first rodeo with a gaze of raccoons prowling.
That's it.
I mean, that's probably true. Yeah.
They heard the neighborhood too, and they're like, it's going to be that gaze of raccoons.
Right.
I hope gaze of raccoons again.
They're like, I hope it's like 1 or 2 raccoons tops, but I don't think I have it in me tonight to deal with the whole gaze of them.
I like the idea that like
doesn't it cost us like thousands of dollars to send this helicopter up?
A lot, yeah. I don't know. The ACLU says a few hundred for every hour, so I'm not sure.
That's it? I thought it was more than that. Just in fuel, it seems like it would be more than that.
I know. Like, so for a price like this, it's almost worth it to go just check out some racks.
Yeah, I mean, shit, if we're getting that kind of a deal on helicopter usage.
Racks.
A Gaze of Raccs.
Scope of
we got a Gaze of Raccs over in Colonial Heights. Can you send the bird up, please?
And then they're all like, yeah. Flipping off the chopper.
I like that their sound effect.
Because they're pissed off. They were casing a house, and now they've got this chopper.
Honestly, if it only costs a couple $100, I don't know why we aren't constantly flying these things around looking for raccoons and skunks and other varmints.
I think if we get enough, Voices money, maybe we can get a Voices chopper.
Dude, the Voices copter.
Damn, yes.
Hell,
we'll find so many prowling raccoons.
Dude, it is my promise to you, the people of Sacramento, that I will monitor a lot of. I'll monitor gazes.
I'll monitor a lot.
That's my promise. I will monitor a lot.
I will monitor car sideshows. I will monitor skunks and murders of crows. And
It's been a while.
Yeah, Shannon, you haven't been listening to our recent episodes. I tried to do that on. Oh, actually, we haven't released that one yet on our. Oh no, it was our last one. I tried to do the caw and it sounded like a dead crow.
Didn't come out right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of Patreon, smash on over to patreon.com/voicesrivercity so we can get the voices copter going. I think I'm very excited.
I mean, what if you've been thinking about supporting? What
you've
better
been loving
reason?
that you've been thinking about supporting?
Right.
I'm thinking about you supporting
right
us right now.
Put me hundreds of feet above the city so that I can observe Gazes of Raccs.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's start the show.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Hello, everyone. You have Kempa
And Skylar.
And Shannon.
and no Flo today, as is usual with what is it, the third Monday of every month.
Yeah, she's off being a Measure U superwoman, so
Yeah,
she
she
gets
has
to
to-
take the night off from Voices.
She has to do her civic duty. But I'm so excited to have Shannon back.
Yeah, Shannon, welcome back. I feel it hasn't been that long, but we know with time being in a warp because of COVID, I feel like I haven't talked to you in months and months.
It definitely feels like I was gone from the show for months and months. I don't even I sat down to do the show and was like, wait, how do I do? I don't know how to do this anymore.
How was your vacation? Was it relaxing? Did your gallbladder allow you to fully enjoy yourself and kick back?
Yeah, I didn't have any gallbladder issues, which is surprising considering the amount of alcohol I consumed.
Maybe that's the secret.
There it is.
I gotta stay lit all the time.
All
Yeah.
the time.
We don't have Flo here, so we can just really guess all we want on
all of the medical guesses.
on how to fix this
Quick.
thing
I didn't really even think about that, but this is a great time for me to come and operate on your gallbladder because she's busy. She can't.
You know what?
She can't get in the way.
Yeah.
It's fully distilled in alcohol, right?
Ready.
Yeah, you've been prepping it for a week.
It's everything is very sterile because it's just been marinating in alcohol.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I did get the first sunburn in many, many years because one morning I drank an entire bottle of champagne starting at 10 a.m. Followed that up with a couple Bloody Marys and then a 6-pack and a half of White Claw.
Hell yeah.
That's an impressive day.
That's
yeah. Well,
that's called Voices of River City lunchtime.
Yeah.
I just was
Voices vacay.
I was sitting under the overcast sky, not thinking a damn thing about it, and then I realized I had fried my skin to a crisp.
Oh my god! But you don't look that burnt right now.
No, it's better.
You burn then tan? Is that your style?
I'm a Mexican, so yeah. It's burned for a day after being an idiot. And then all of a sudden I'm tan. My mom said, "Oh, look, you look Mexican now."
I'm so jealous of that, man. I go from white, like uncooked chicken white to pink and then back to white and then back to pink and then back to white. Now it's October.
Yeah.
I burn then tan, but there's no reason for it. I don't know why that is.
Flo, we're gonna need you to
Flo,
chime in on why does that?
Flo, man, we miss Flo already.
I know. It's
I
tough.
forgot that she wasn't going to be on the show. I was excited because I missed the last one. It was going to be Flo's 90th.
Oh, the special. Oh, the 90th. Yeah. Her 50th.
Her 50th on the
she
night.
no call no showed.
Don't worry, she missed that too.
Oh, okay. Cool.
She showed
got-
up about. Yeah, I
She's got
mean,
a few
she
things
had
going on.
exactly. She had other like police shit to be working on, so we understood. Well, I guess maybe we get started today. Anyway, I'm just so happy to have you back.
Same.
Thank you. Thanks.
And we've
Happy-
been,
happy
you
to be
know,
back.
we've been sharing. We always share listener feedback, and more recently, we've had feedback from listeners saying that I can't wait till Shannon's back. I want more Shannon. When will Kempa and Skylar stop interrupting Shannon?
The answer is never.
And we're with you, listeners, on everything but that last one.
We're gonna keep interrupting. It's funny because I don't feel interrupted, and maybe it's just because like the vibe of the show is like you have something to say and you just go for it. Like
It's an
interest-
interrupty. Fuck! I just did it.
Yeah, we're an interrupty show, I guess. I do know that I take a little bit more time to like I'll sit back and like really, drink 7 White Claws while we're recording
Mhm.
and really come, unpack my thoughts.
You really get something like really profound cooked
yeah,
up
yeah.
to say. Yeah.
I mean,
And you do. You usually serve it up like perfectly. And
Yeah.
yeah, where I'm like,
that's,
fuck the district attorney.
And the listeners are like, when Shannon said "fuck the district attorney," I felt that.
Yeah. $5.
So now I've got the pressure to like show up because we've received some fan mail.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I've been telling you that for months, that everybody's always asking for more Shannon.
It's true. I hear
like,
that too.
Some days, you're a frontline worker and you're like, listen, I'm gonna give you what I'm able to give you, and
That's
we
like most
understand that
days.
too. Yeah, exactly.
That's how it's going to be for me once we get that helicopter and I get my job.
Skylar's gonna be like recording from the helicopter. Just like, hey guys, reporting live from BRC Air 1 over downtown Sacramento. I'm looking at the racks.
There's a
There's
Gaze of
real-
Raccs right around Cesar Chavez Park. I'm observing.
I'm up
them.
here. I'm up here in the Crow.
Riding around in the Crow. There's a real absence of racks tonight. They're gonna come on down.
They know I'm up here
Yeah.
looking to observe them.
The racks have scattered. So, okay.
This is what happens when Flo's not on the show.
This is actually what I love, like the episodes when Flo's not here, when it's just like,
When it
what?
just completely goes to shit.
Where did
what
the
the-
last 20 minutes just go?
We're talking about racks and sunburn.
Gazes of Raccs.
Skylar driving a helicopter called the Crow.
Shit.
Okay.
Crow 1.
Crow 1, yeah.
Crow Force 1.
Yeah. Yes, Crow
We'll have a
Force
whole
1.
fleet, one for each of us.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Why don't we start with our episode today?
All right.
I think to begin, well, Shannon, we just got you back. And we haven't discussed, really, I mean, the last couple of weeks, you look at it, it's all been election, fire, COVID, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? And
Did we talk
don't-
about Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
No, because she just died on Friday.
yeah, she died Friday.
No.
I mean, do we want to?
R.I.P.
If you guys want to, I'm down. I feel like people have kind of covered it. I don't know what I'm going to say that is going to be interesting to anybody.
Yeah, things are tough and weird and scary.
Yeah.
And, it just makes it more important to win the Senate. That's kind of just where I am on that.
Yeah, that's a perfect take.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it sucks, and I'm not pumped about it. But like in my strategy,
I'm
or
totally
my
pumped about
idea
it.
was always just like if we can take the Senate, keep the House, and get the executive branch, then we can just pack the court. And we do that with or without whoever the fuck Trump and McConnell appoint now.
Right.
So I don't think it changes that much if we can in fact do those things. So
Yeah, it just established the urgency a little bit deeper.
yes, agreed.
But I do want to sort of talk about something that hasn't been in the news really lately too much in California, which is obviously homelessness. Gavin Newsom promised that he would address, the homelessness crisis during COVID and make sure that, our most vulnerable population wasn't left out in the elements, as the virus is going around. And I thought it would be good for us to get an update there, kind of hear how the whole hotel initiative that he started has been going. And then B, Shannon, you're an expert in your field. You are a frontline worker in emergency services every day. And I know you just got back from vacation, so you're probably really totally excited to talk about this stuff. So why don't could you just tell us a little bit about A, Newsom's initiative, B, how that's manifesting in Sacramento right now, and then after that, maybe we can dive into some more sort of Sacramento-oriented emergency homeless crisis issues.
Yeah. So Governor Newsom had promised to award many millions of dollars to localities through a project or through something called Project Home Key, which might sound familiar to people who are familiar with Project Room Key. So this Wednesday, the 16th, he awarded over $75 million to various localities for 10 different projects. And we weren't really sure that Sacramento was going to be a part of that. Though there was a lot of buzz that we might get money. As I understand it, this was money that was RFP. There was an RFP, a request for a proposal that was put out. Essentially, I'm not sure that it was called an RFP, but localities had to apply for this funding. So we weren't sure that Sacramento was going to get it. And we learned today that Sacramento received $30 million.
Which is,
right?
Which is pretty good, right?
It's more than
210 units worth. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's also more than any other city or county received from the $76.5 million that was awarded on the 16th. It does. So let's talk about Project Home Key. The idea there is that motels or hotels would be converted into permanent supportive housing units. And in Sacramento in particular, the hope is to create 200, they're saying 210-ish permanent supportive housing units for people in 2 hotels, one of which will be just north of downtown and the other will be in South Sac. This would be an SHRA project SHRA would oversee it, the Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency.
Yes.
And this is part of the city's larger $60-something million plan to help get people inside by the end of the year. So the thing with this money is that it's part of COVID relief. I don't even know what arm of that COVID relief money it goes to because I'm just back from vacation.
We do not fault you on that.
Thank you. But I do know that it has to be spent in the last 4 months. It has to be spent by December, right? So, and then, so the difference between Project Home Key and Project Room Key is that Project Room Key was for hotels or motels in our area. They're open through December, and that's where single folks are sheltered during the pandemic.
So what populations are focused on the first one?
So Project Room Key,
Room Key.
Project Home Key will
Who named
like,
these
why the
fucking
fuck?
things?
Why the fuck would they do that? In their minds, they're like, this is super easy. It's like home and then
Okay,
room,
key.
and they're gonna
Yeah.
get keys. And it's like, no, you fucking idiots.
Project car key, project cocaine key.
So annoying. As I understand,
Okay.
Project Home Key will house families, or has the potential to house families.
Okay.
The thing is that it just depends on how they redo these hotels or motels. If they make units that are large enough for families, tight. But project
With the room key ones where it's just single people is why. I mean, it seems like obviously you would want a larger space to accommodate a family, but I have to imagine that like a family of 3 would rather be in a hotel room with 1 bed in it than outside, right?
Yeah. I mean, what we find is that the barriers, I mean, I can talk about the barriers when that we experience serving, as we try to serve families living outside. A lot of it is like family composition. Families are too big, and there's like a liability around putting a family of 5 people in a spot with only 1 queen bed, because there's issues with, like, they want to have enough beds for everybody. It's like the size of the space, whether or not the person who is, like, in our county, we have there are hotels that accept county hotel vouchers or motel vouchers. And it's like, well, does that motel owner want to actually work with a family experiencing homelessness? And there's a lot of stigma around families experiencing homelessness as being like just too much to handle, because they've got kids, and it's, they're loud, or they're messy, or they're going to like destroy things. And so, yeah, I mean, the question, like, wouldn't it be better to just put a family, regardless of the size, into a motel room? Totally. But the problem is that there are barriers
Right.
to
I
getting
can see
people
that.
in. And what we find is that there is the biggest barrier to getting people into motels, hotels, shelters, and housing is the absence of supportive services, and the absence of
Right.
staff on the ground who get out there and actually work with and build rapport with people experiencing homelessness. And then right after that is, of course, the affordable units for people, because it's not a housing shortage that we're experiencing, it's an affordable housing shortage. It's not like, and that in terms of shelter, it's a fucking shelter shortage.
Yeah.
So did you explain both of the keys fully?
Yeah, though.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the keys. Did I explain the keys fully? I think so.
Okay. And that has potential to help between 250 and X amount of folks get under a roof for at least the time being.
Well, yeah, I mean, Project Home Key, which is the project that was just awarded the $30 million from the state, has the potential of 210 units. How many people are actually going to be served is not, we don't know that.
But there's potential for more than 210.
There would absolutely be more than 210, because that's just the number of units.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all this is great. We all know that it's still we probably, the last point in time count in Sacramento County found 5,000 folks.
5,570 people that were outside on that night, but the report also anticipated that 11,000 people would experience homelessness in 2019.
Right. So even these 200 some units, it's like we want to mitigate it after we're like, yeah, this is a good thing, but also the problem is much, much bigger than that.
Right.
It's not going away anytime soon. Can you talk a little bit about how things have been at Mary House? Mary House being, Shannon is the director at the daytime drop-in shelter, basically in our region for women experiencing homelessness. Serves a lot of kids too, and some fathers as well. You know, you are the people who really can tell and gauge how bad or how stressed our system is getting, because you are the ones dealing with, you know, the sheer numbers every day. Can you give some update there on how that's been during the time of COVID? I know you had to shut down for a couple of weeks a while back there, and kind of where you are today.
Yeah, I mean, I think where we are is very similar to where many of our partner providers are, which is just inundated with people who are in crisis. And it's interesting, as a frontline service provider who has spent the last 15 years working with people experiencing homelessness on the front line. We always say crisis, but like this is a whole new level, right? We've got people who, not only are we dealing with the pandemic, but over the last month, we've been dealing with fires. And so there's the issue of air quality that is really dangerous for people in sensitive groups. And the truth is that people experiencing homelessness tend to live with multiple diagnoses that certainly create like the perfect mixture for a highly sensitive person.
Right.
So, they're having to live in, like, you're sleeping outside and you wake up and it's fucking 112 degrees outside and you haven't had a shower and there aren't as many people around to like help you with water or food or whatever. And now you're waking up like in actual ash, like,
Yeah.
and you feel like shit. I mean, the three of us have talked about how we feel like shit just like walking outside, like from our homes to like the corner, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Or
we're
like
not,
living indoors with a wall unit. I can't
Right.
imagine living outdoors through
Yeah.
this.
Right.
and so we're seeing, people who are like more stressed out physically and mentally, more agitated as a result of what's happening right now. It just also incredibly frustrated because the promise that they were going to get inside during the pandemic was never fulfilled well. Access to those units, those project room key units, were not easy to come by. I think the other thing is that we're finding people, what we often find with families experiencing homelessness is that they're doubled up or they're tripled up, right? In like an apartment with a number of other families, or with a friend, or maybe it's like grandma has a housing choice voucher, formerly known as Section 8, and she's letting the family come in at night and stay. But the pandemic hits and all of a sudden everyone is really fearful of losing their housing, or suddenly becoming precariously housed, or being wrongfully evicted, or evicted at all.
Right.
And so we found this like tidal wave of families that were coming to us for help, because while they were able to, with like a very mild sense of security, find a place to lay their head at night, suddenly the pandemic hit and the fires hit and everything went to hell.
Right.
And they're like, I have nowhere to go. Like, I am now literally homeless. Or they're just like every day just sort of like trying to make it work, asking a friend, asking a family member. Like, so what I am seeing is certainly the same, it's the same single women experiencing homelessness who come to us day in and day out, but it's really an influx of families that are suddenly really, really just like put in a super dangerous position, to have to be potentially outside with their children, and the resources available to them are not a lot. I think people would be really surprised to know what our city and county do for families experiencing homelessness. It's not a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's complete fucking bullshit. They have to go through a shelter system that is managed by the county, which funnels out to only 2 shelters. And there is St. John's, which would be the other family shelter in our area, but I don't like to refer out to them because they're not a low barrier shelter.
Is that the Real Change one?
Right. Yeah.
I just gave scare quotes. Basically, they create high barriers to get in, and it's just not conducive for people experiencing, the stressors that folks are experiencing right now.
Yeah.
Well, and they do that thing, which is they perpetuate these stereotypes against people experiencing homelessness that say that folks are just they're always high or they're drunk and they don't want to get better. They don't want to be housed.
Right.
And
it's
so
the reactionary sort of tough love type stuff that's
Right.
exactly what it is.
Bullshit.
It's super conservative.
Yeah. And listeners who didn't know that, there are much better shelters to support than them, in my opinion. And no one has to agree with me on the show. I'm just going to say that for myself.
Don't give St. John's your money.
Okay.
Is what I think. There are better places.
I was trying to give you an out there, but okay.
I'm on this show as my own person. I bring the experiences of my employer, but I am my own person. These thoughts are mine.
But yeah, things are real tough, as I guess people know, I suppose.
Well, and looking like they might get tougher. I mean, we've got housing issues are about to get really, really bad, and especially like depending on what happens with people's unemployment. Every month a higher percentage of people just don't have the rent on the first, and it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Mm-hmm.
What we're finding through the pandemic is that like all of the things that, like, we're going to make sure to get people inside, and we're going to make sure that people are safe, and we're not going to sweep the streets for encampments, which is like when cops come around and tell folks who's sleeping outside that they've got to kick rocks. Like, we're not going to do any of that, but it's happening. It's still happening. It just, right. I mean, there's not, I would say probably 2, maybe 3 times a week as I'm driving home, there's a cop hassling a person like sleeping outside, just like doing nothing, just like sitting, right?
Yeah.
They're obviously citing them for like garbage or whatever the fuck.
Whatever there's actually quality of life offense, broken windows theory bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. There's there was a demonstration today over on Stockton Boulevard, and there's actually a press conference tomorrow to like highlight the need to stop the sweeps. Like, because really, where are people going to go? Like, there are no Project Roomkey had a goal of having 850 units, but as of July, they had served 619 people. So it's like they definitely weren't going to meet their goal of 850 units, which, like, I see 250 people a day at my program, sometimes more. Like, so 619 is nothing.
It's kind of negligible in the big scheme. Yeah. Which isn't to say, like, I'm happy that they're trying to put a dent in it, but it's just, totally. We should always, let people know kind of what percentage of the actual problem it is.
Right.
Shannon, you were talking about barriers and how people don't really understand how hard it is sometimes if you've got like a mixed family or a family or, people of different ages and genders to actually get shelter. It reminded me of that friend of mine I reached out to you on she had met a family that was over in Old Sac that needed help with a bunch of things. They got a bunch of their stuff stolen. One of them like had money from the government coming in, but all of her cards and IDs were stolen. And when I told you this whole story, your response was just like, okay, yeah, there's like a lot of steps that have to go down here, and this could take weeks for them.
Yeah.
And like that, I mean, it didn't surprise me, but it reminded me just how hard it is to be homeless and how hard it is to navigate a system that does not want to work for you.
Yeah, I think that there is and I don't know where it comes from, but this misperception that if a person is experiencing homelessness in Sacramento, they just have to make a phone call or they just have to show up somewhere, and that is going to knock the domino over that gets them, that like makes it all work in perfect order, and then by the end of the night they're going to be sheltered. But that's not the case. Like in our community, if a family is experiencing homelessness, for example, and their family composition, if they're a family experiencing homelessness at all, the likelihood of getting into a shelter the same day is 0. Like
Yeah.
the number of times that I have seen it happen is not many. So you end up on a wait list, and you have to be able to get on that wait list by yourself through a website that is run by the county, and you have to have a phone number that is charged on a phone that is charged, so that when the county calls you from a no caller ID number, you pick it up or return the phone call immediately, so that you don't miss your bed.
It's absurd.
It's bananas. And if you're not from this county, like that's a whole other thing. If you don't, like, identification is something that they can sort of work around, but the reality for people experiencing homelessness is many are not like, we find people who come to Sacramento because they're like, this is a state capital, you're going to help me, right? And they don't have a birth certificate, or they had all of their shit but it was stolen while they traveled here, or
Right.
whatever they're, and trying to get them the documentation they need to receive services is a whole other thing. If you have a lot of personal belongings, shelters don't want you to bring all your personal belongings. They want you to really pare things down to the bare minimum. And what I always say about that is, this is all people have. And you're asking them to like make decisions to fit everything that they want to keep for the rest of their existence into like a duffel bag or a suitcase, whatever. Like, there are lots of barriers, and this community has done some work around making sure that there are shelters available that accept pets, partners, and people's possessions, but they haven't done a good enough job, in my opinion, because while that barrier potentially doesn't exist anymore, there are a dozen more that do.
Yeah.
Don't get me started.
No, thank you for getting started.
Yeah.
And we haven't discussed this nearly enough on the show, I think, recently. So thanks for that. I mean, this might be a little off topic, but I was just reminded recently of the violence of experiencing homelessness because an acquaintance or / friend of mine, I don't know if he considers himself a friend, Josh Emmett, the UFC fighter from Sacramento, his brother had been experiencing homelessness and was killed over on Jaboom Street a couple weeks back. And, it's devastating to him. It's devastating to his whole family. And I think they're frustrated and saddened that the police aren't going to take this case seriously because his brother was experiencing homelessness. And when that's the case, they don't give it the time that it deserves.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked on this show about homeless deaths and how we've just seen a steady rise in deaths of people experiencing homelessness here in Sacramento, and other communities have seen the same. And the number of times that we actually see resolution on these things is hardly any. I mean, I was talking to you all earlier about being stuck in the courthouse for hours today because I'm testifying on a case of a guest who was murdered like 5.5 years ago, and the trial is now.
Wow.
It's like it's so slow going to get any sort of I mean, like, is it even just closure? Just I think for families,
That's the word.
especially of people, for anyone who experiences that murder or like the unknown death of a loved one, it really is just like trying to get to a space where that closure can be achieved, so that there's an ability to move forward. And that's not, it's so hard because the people that I serve aren't humanized. We don't call, like, it's so important for me that I say people experiencing homelessness, and I know unhoused people is a term that a lot of folks use as well, but like I really want that, like, the people that I serve, these are people that, like, when I get a death notification, I can tell you about these people. I can tell you how they like their coffee. I can tell you what their favorite breakfast was. I can tell you the names of their children in many cases. Like, and we have to do better. And
their status of homelessness doesn't define them by any
No.
means. It's a
Right.
status. It is,
Right.
I currently have no home. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
And I think we also have to get to a space where, I love working for a place that takes no government funding, because it means that no one can tell us how the fuck to do our job. No one can tell us how long a person is allowed to receive services, or what kind of services, or anything. No one gets to dictate the way that we show up, and our measurable outcome is just being a presence for people and just helping people to grab onto, like, a story that isn't just shattered by the public who tells them that they aren't worthy. So that is an incredible thing, and I would love to see us get to a space where we can actually serve people outside of these, like, federal definitions of homelessness. And, like, there's terms like length of stay. You hear length of stay around shelter. Like, you can stay in a family shelter for 160 days before you max out. And if you max out, you have to wait a certain amount of time. And it's like, but we're talking about people, like,
Right.
and shit happens, and we can't, and you are, well, okay. So, and we shouldn't be putting these, like, rigorous definitions on their success. And the other thing is that if a person is double or tripled up with a family, they are homeless because their name is not on a lease, or their name is not on a deed. Like, and we have to start, I think, treating people as folks who are worthy of the right to housing, and not people who have to, like, beg for someone to look them in the eye and tell them what services are available for them. Like, that's the thing that I hear most often from people who come to Mary House, is like, thank you for just telling me what to expect. Like,
Yeah.
even if it's bad news, at least I now know, right? And I know what you've outlined it all here for me. I couldn't even get anyone on the phone before. I hear that all the time from people.
Yeah.
Can I
rant over?
I love that rant. And I just wanted to.
Yeah, honestly, it's been a long time since we have kind of discussed that, and that when we started the show was a major focus of it. And honestly, like, I mean, obviously it's not like, this isn't like a fun conversation to have. But we haven't gotten this perspective in a long time, and I appreciate getting it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here for it.
You're an indispensable part of, like, not just the Sacramento community, but just like, I mean, your expertise, like there's very, very few people who have it, I think. And I feel very lucky to have you able to sit and give time to all of this.
Same.
What I wanted to do was just drive home and sort of put a bow on what you were saying. A reminder to our listeners that I think the episode that we had you on as a guest when you were first visited in November, something like that.
December, I think, yeah.
I told the story of how Loaves started. And I just want to remind people, Loaves and Fishes was started by two Catholic worker movement anarchists, Dan and Chris Delaney. Dan, a former priest, Chris, a former nun. They fell in love, and then they decided to just go do radical service for the rest of their lives. Absolutely incredible people. Loaves continues in that spirit. And I always love to bring up sort of like people who their politics don't fit into the red or the blue, but they are still some of the most important people that a community can imagine. And it's so cool to see that their vision is carried on today with folks like you. And yeah, so I mean, that's what Loaves is all about. I think if any listeners want to support right now, because there's a lot to do, Loaves is an obvious place that you can place support. And then there's some other folks who've been doing some new stuff too recently. Sac Soup has been good in doing some emergency services during COVID, as well as I forget what he calls it, but Josh Fernandez has been going out weekly, and collecting things from the community to give to folks in need out in Cesar Chavez Plaza. So I think on top of Loaves, either of those are good places to look at too.
Yeah, I think, and I hope I don't lose my job for this, but Loaves is one of the, you know, when you say Sacramento and homelessness, people are like Loaves and Fishes. And we do incredible work, and I can talk about that at length. But right now, what we are finding is that there are people who are like, you know, in the park and they're not leaving, or they're in South Sac and they're not leaving, or they're in North Sac and they're not leaving those spaces to come to Loaves as they maybe once did as a result of the pandemic. And so those people and those organizations that have gone out and are like delivering things, you know, they could really, I think, use support. And then organizations that are working on the ground on advocacy, like the Sacramento Services Not Sweeps Coalition and the Sacramento Regional Coalition to End Homelessness. Like, these are folks who are going to be around long after the pandemic, who could certainly use support in probably a variety of different ways. I mean, I'll take your support too, so don't.
They're important because they provide a perspective that would not be in the room if they were not there. You know, when these politicians are sitting down with, like, you know, neighborhood business associations and shit, and like they still don't get the respect they deserve from politicians, but they make themselves fucking known, and they're deeply important. So that's a good point too. Can we have a few minutes. I don't think it's going to take much time for me to cover this. I just wanted to take a moment very quickly to touch on Mayor Darrell Steinberg, friend of the show, Master of Crows. That was good, Shannon.
That was a Bane crow.
You think you invented the car?
Car.
I was born into murder.
I haven't been cawing much lately, so I gotta.
You gotta practice.
I gotta practice.
Okay. I know I don't have much time for this topic.
Oh yeah, sorry.
This is what happens when we don't have flow. I wanted to talk about Darrell Steinberg's power grab, his push for yes on Measure A. Sac Snark, who is a real friend of the show and just has been super important in framing some of the fights that we've had over the years here. He just took it upon himself to create the spreadsheet for the Sac Follows the Money project, on the mayor's Yes on A on his initiative. And so,
can you run us through exactly what Measure A is wants to do?
So I can't. All I can say is that it's a strong mayor initiative. I know it has a few little sweeteners tacked onto it that are like, oh, we'll put some money aside for, I don't know, what is it? Like racial justice in small businesses.
Yeah, it's stuff like that. It's stuff that like should be its own, like it's stuff that we actually shouldn't really need a measure to have. Like we should, like these services should just exist. But he's holding them ransom with Measure A by saying that the only way that we can actually fund these things or do any of these programs is if you grant me more executive authority as mayor.
Right. And like, honestly, if you look at it, it's like the things that the little sweeteners he tacked on for like racial justice initiatives and things like that, if they were separate measures, everyone on the show would be like, yeah, support that.
Yeah, easy. Yeah.
He only included it because he wants this.
But they're like hostages in this like power grab that he's trying to make.
Yeah. So basically, he filed the little committee for Yes on A. And what it is just him renaming his slush fund. That's like all of the money that like all of these shitty organizations give to him. And there's like really not much of a cap on that. And so it's not for his like re-election campaign, which usually has a very low cap on how much you can give. This is like, the caps for this is like $100,000 from your political action committee, So he used this fund, I think, to fight Measure G, which was like paying for like Sacramento schools. He fought against that. He didn't want kids to have money in Sacramento. Mm-hmm. But the most recent iteration is called, what's it called? It's called Yes on A, Community Labor and Business Groups for Sacramento and Mayoral Accountability and Community Equity, Mayor Darrell Steinberg Committee for Sacramento's Future. Yeah. But this thing goes back to, he's been getting money since 2017 on it, and it goes back for ages. But I just want to touch on the most recent contributions that happened between August of this year and now, because those are probably the ones that are based off of
that are for Measure A. Yeah.
He's taken in $140,000 since August. What's really interesting to me about that is 75,000, of the 140,000, so almost half of it, over half of it, is from explicitly anti-renters' rights groups. So iron workers, pipe fitters, and realtors have given him $75,000 in the last 2 months. So this tells you basically that Measure A, which we should all vote no on, is tied closely with Measure C, which we should all vote yes on.
As well as Prop 21, which we should also be voting yes on.
Yes, exactly. So vote for renters' rights. These people are trying to just like basically buy these elected officials. And obviously they bought Darrell because he came out against real rent control on both the local and state level. Skylar, you mentioned another funny one locally recently. Who was that? Who gave him money on this?
Oh, are you talking about Turtletaub?
Turtletaub.
Mark Turtletaub, a film producer in LA.
Yeah, gave him $25,000, and I'm racking my brain trying to figure out why he would do that.
I'm dying to know what that's about. Also, that was definitely Olive. Yes, making her cameo. I really think that like. Is this the character from BoJack Horseman, the producer that's a turtle? Is it based off him?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Because
I don't know.
Mark Turtletaub's famous for Little Miss Sunshine and a couple other movies. Actually, really good. He produces.
So he did some indie stuff.
Mm-hmm. He produces great. He produces good shit.
Not this.
This is not a good production. This is bad production here. I don't know. I don't know what. I just don't really understand why a film producer from LA is giving Darrell Steinberg $25,000 for Measure A.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like good buds or something. I don't know.
Well, and then like this random, like a casino gave him 10 grand. He has a bunch of random casinos giving him money the last 2 years. And then like a random lawyer named Tina Thomas gave him $25,000. I know nothing about her either.
Right.
But this is all recent. This is all in the last 2 months. So these are things worth looking into, Sacramento, if you'd like to. One other thing I'd just like to say, we have a color coding. We'll be making this public as we can, as it comes. But I went through all of the money that this thing took in since 2017, and he has taken in a total of $380,000 fucking dollars, nearly $400,000 from explicitly anti-renters' rights groups. That's why, like, almost.
I mean, it makes 100% sense, like given like how things have gone in that vein with him and like his actions against those things over and over and over.
Totally.
They're paying the right fucking guy.
Like, you watch him talk, you look at him and you're like, I don't trust him. And then you look at all of this shit and you're like,
oh, that's why.
You definitely should not trust Darrell Steinberg. He is a slimy politician.
Yeah.
The other one that sort of hit me was the cops in 2018. They put $50,000 into this slush fund. 2018 was the year that they killed Stephon Clark. So this was their sort of covering their asses by giving Darrell Steinberg $50,000 the year that they killed Stephon Clark. So, I mean, this is our mayor. This is his slush fund. And I think it's really important that people see this. So thank you, Sac Snark, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I know we've already... our opinion about Measure A is clear, but like this is not a guy who you should vote to like give more executive authority to.
Absolutely not.
It's not. No. He's not the right guy for it.
No. What we need is a city council that has, let's say like 25 members or something, and something that actually has some culpability. All this is a power grab.
Yeah.
I just wanted to also take a quick moment for something that was brought to my attention recently. It's called the Sac Dem Alliance.
I was going to say, yeah. So not only is there like shady money shit going on, but there's like weird Dem groups who are popping up now, like in the orbit of Measure A.
So what I'm hearing, so the Sac Dem Alliance came out of nowhere. It's got like 38 fucking followers on Facebook. It doesn't have a Twitter account. But it's randomly like putting out like candidate endorsements, and everyone's like, no one knows who it is. If you go to the website, there's literally not a person on the website. It is a classic, what you call AstroTurf campaign that is not real people.
Yeah.
It's probably some talker people that are just like really slimy fuckers.
In the About Us section of this, it just says, we are proud Sacramento Democrats. We're a committee of politically active Sacramento Democrats who believe that our party is stronger and more effective when we work together to make our region a better place to live, work, and raise a family, even if we don't see eye to eye 100% of the time.
Nonsense.
With like that, yeah, that's a nothing burger. That's a non-statement.
Yeah. I don't like to quote this Supreme Court justice. It's argle bargle. There's no words there. There's nothing there.
Yeah, and there's a picture of like a donkey dancing next to it, just so just so we're clear that they're Democrats, even if they don't agree eye to eye, all the time.
Operation Donkey Punch. So,
Operation Donkey Punch.
These guys are endorsing Jim Cooper, by the way.
They're endorsing Jim Cooper. They're endorsing Jesse Ryan for school board, who, by the way, the county Dems did not endorse her. So that's the funny thing, too. The county Dems have endorsed people locally, and they are trying to tie themselves to not just the county Dems, but also to the state Dems and the national Dems. They link to the state and national Democratic Party on their website, these, Sac Dem Alliance folks. But like county Dems endorsed, I believe they endorsed Mai Vang. The Sac Dem Alliance, they endorsed Pastor Les. The Sac Dem Alliance guess who they endorsed for the water district? Not Tamika LaCluse, who is like a very popular, exciting candidate. They endorsed our favorite person, Steve Maviglio, America's landlord.
Hey, they do mention on their site that, you know, we might not see eye to eye 100% of the time.
Absolutely. And we do not see eye
We
to eye.
don't. Yeah, no, that's very
And
true.
you are correct,
That's
because we do
extremely
not.
true.
So I just want to say, like, I've been saying for a couple years that the Democratic Party as an umbrella is going to become more nonsensical as the Republican Party becomes less of a factor. And I think we're watching that happen today.
Yes.
With
100% yes.
And not just with the, you know, we've seen it with the dissonance between establishment Dems and then, you know, rank and file Dems. You also see that in establishment labor and rank and file labor. Very much kind of class and power dynamics going on there, right? But with a group like this drives it home even further. So I wanted to say, and this is breaking a little news, I think, one of our listeners actually found the paperwork for who started this thing, and it started by exactly the people that I thought were starting it. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named David Townsend.
I don't think I have.
Or a guy named Chris Tapio. They are both partners of a Dem talker group called Townsend Clacken Tapio Public Affairs. And they are both conservative Democrats who are just like total pieces of shit. Townsend wrote an op-ed in the Bee in 2017 just about how Democrats need to shut the fuck up about Medicare for all. Like Townsend.
Oh,
is
yeah,
the
yeah.
worst
I remember
man.
that.
He's just, and like another thing, that was a very bad, it was a terribly written piece. Like for me to get published in the Bee's op-ed section, I had to fucking like cross my T's and dot my I's. But this thing is just like, he shat on a piece of paper, gave it to the Bee, and then Foonry was like, oh, I love it. I love you, David Townsend. I'm going to lick this piece of paper up. This was back when Foon was over there.
I'm gonna lick your shit.
But so these are the people running this. It's also run by the third person who signed on to it is a guy named Jonathan Arambell. He used to be a staffer for one of the state politicians. I believe it was for Tom Daley, assembly member. And then he went off to start his own firm called Third House LLC. I know very little about Jonathan, but Jonathan, you're really picking the wrong friends here. But if any listeners want to go, you know, say hi to David and Chris, I'm sure you can find their emails. Otherwise, they're up on I Street over near 18th, right next to Easy on I. Go ahead and visit their office, which also, as we should not be surprised, houses Region Business run by Josh Wood, who tried to rat fuck the last housing rights campaign in 2018. So I just quickly wanted to say there are some real fucking shitty establishment Dems out there trying to muddy the waters, and I hope we all are paying attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, thanks for bringing that by. I didn't realize that you knew who was behind this thing, because it is like, it's weird. Like I encourage our listeners to check this out. Just go to like sacdemalliance.org. It's a fucking weird looking website. It will kind of eke you out a little bit, I think.
Totally. And I'm sure they're working with Steve Maviglio. Also, there's more news to break on Steve Maviglio in the future, but he did not do very well on a candidate forum with the county's Latino Democrats and ended up accusing them of being Trumpians. We can get into that in a later episode because I know we got to wrap it up today.
Yeah. Oh, so I found my way over to the Yes on Measure A website through this like SAC Alliance thing. And I wanted to report that exact same stock photo that we were talking about last week is the front page of their site. So it's all the same people, all doing the same stuff. So if you Google what did we Google? Like diversity stock photo or something.
yeah,
It's on the first page.
Fifth
That
row,
is
something like that. Yeah.
that's like the first page on the Yes on Measure A, like accountable leadership fucking page. Incredible. Like who is, man. I mean, that's how I guess how you know that these guys really don't think people are fucking paying attention.
Oh yeah, totally. And then one friend, like, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's the same thing actually with the Sac Dem Alliance page. They have like a stock photo with like a bunch of diverse people in a crowd like cheering together, and then there's a black guy holding up a sign, and on the sign it says Sac Dem Alliance, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I guarantee, give me 3 minutes of searching and I can find that photo.
100% yes. Yeah.
Learn.
It's a whole thing. Well, Dave, speaking of, let me see here. How am I going to do this?
Yeah.
So it sounds like soon the people who are building these web pages might be looking for a job. That reminds me of myself. So I've never brought this up before. I'm currently out of work, and instead of working, I have all this free time that I've been spending looking for wonderful takes on the internet, because I live and consist now on a diet of Special K cereal and the best takes from Twitter and White Claw. However, I tire of sifting through all of these takes. I would like a more centralized place where I can get really great takes without having to read people's bad takes. This sounds too good to be true, but I thought I would just put it out there anyway to see if you guys know of any place where I can find reliably perfect takes on demand whenever I want.
I guess I'll take this.
Yeah, this one's yours.
I've, this is a search I know well, and I'm always on it. And, sometimes you get very good takes. Sometimes you get a perfect take mixed in with a lot of shit. But the closest thing that I've found, and by that the closest thing, I mean the thing that is exactly what you're looking for, is a place called voicesrivercity.com. It's 3.5 years of perfect takes at this point, really.
I thought this was a legend. I've heard tell, but I didn't dare to dream that it could be a real place that I could go.
Dryland exists. I've seen it, and it is. Is that a bad reference? Bad movie reference?
Is that a Waterworld reference?
Yeah.
No, I think it's a great reference.
The guy with the gills.
Yeah, the guy with the gills, huh?
It's called voicesrivercity.com, and we've been doing news and arts coverage for years. Truth to Power commentary, the Sac Follows the Money project, which we're doing whether I wanted to or not. Sac Snark was making us do this year, which I love.
Yeah, that's great.
And so we've got plenty more where that came from with that too. And then yeah, I mean, it's currently our big focus is the podcast, and we've been having a lot of fun with that. I think we've been breaking some good news. I think we've had some really interesting, important people on lately. And we've got more interesting, important people to come. We're going to have Jackie Fielder on next week, who is a 25-year-old Native American woman who is running against Senator Wiener from San Francisco. And she's actually giving him a run for his money.
Gets me every time. You can't say Wiener.
Are you going to have to sit this episode out, Shannon?
No, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine.
The entire episode, we just call him Senator Dick Hole.
Yeah. We'll come up with another dick name for him for you.
You remember how long it took me to be able to just like stay chill while you were counting down to start the show?
Senator Penis Cock.
Look out.
Senator Shaft.
All right.
I love a good dick joke.
Don't
Senator,
we all?
Senator Penis. We're gonna have Jackie Fielder on next week.
Well, maybe. We'll
Yeah,
see
At this
now.
point,
We'll
man,
see.
maybe we should cut that.
She might cancel.
I would.
No, we've got a lot of really exciting people coming on though, and obviously we've been gaining a good following. Within just like 2 weeks of this month, we had double-digit listeners in like 5 different states in the U.S. So that's, again, it's just always fun to watch us grow. Over the weekend, Flo did a Patreon-only episode with us, and it was fascinating and fun and just a joy, and I cannot wait to share that. That should be coming out next week, Sunday. And yeah, so if you want to become a patron, go to patreon.com/voicesrivercity. Go as low as $5 a month, as high as $25 a month. There's some cool perks. You can get a mug or a t-shirt if you go that as high as $25 a month. But really, you're just helping us get by, helping us do what we need to do. And it just means a whole lot to us. It means the world to us. We are on social, Voices River City, at Voices River City on Twitter and Instagram. It's Voices River City on Facebook. Each of us personally are on Twitter. I am at Kempa, YOUKNOWKEMPA.
I am Guillotine for You. That's Guillotine, the number 4, YOU. I'm really leaning into it.
Yeah, you're really going for it. I am Shan N.D. Stevens. And Flo.
Yeah, Flo is at Flo Jean. That's FLOJAUNE.
I like how we're all just dying to tell.
I've never gotten to do it. I jumped on that one because I wanted to take this one.
I'm learning to step away from saying the fourth persons because someone's gonna do it.
Someone's gonna do it. Yeah. The other thing before we end, we made mention of Measure C, rent control, that we should be voting yes on C.
Indeed.
And
vote us C and C.
C. And the folks who are organizing around Measure C are looking for volunteers like stat. So
Voluntarios.
Correct. So we'll plop that link in the show notes. But the info that you need is that it's real easy to do from home if you've got computer, internet, and earbuds. It's virtual phone and text banking, Monday through Thursday, 4 to 6 or 6:30 to 8:30. And we know that voting, a lot of voting is going to be done in that first week of October. So we want to make sure that folks are volunteering now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Out.
And this is incredibly important work, and they need grassroots help.
Mm-hmm.
They literally beat all odds to get this thing on the ballot. And I don't think you could be any prouder of a grassroots campaign than this. But they're not through the finish line yet. And Shannon, I'm really glad you brought that up because anyone who can help them, push this forward like that could mean the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So get it's super easy to sign up. It's like a Google form, put your info in, and they'll holla at you. So get out there. We got to get that rent control. You know what I'm saying?
We got to get that rent control, guys. All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you for making it all the way through this episode with us. If you made it through here. If you are a Jackie Fielder, we're really sorry, and we'll be on better behavior when you're on the show.
We don't talk about those things.
Yeah, no. We're going to have a strong talk with Shannon before that show starts.
Okay. It's all me.
It's all Shannon, 100%.
My wheelhouse is inappropriate.
But until then, guys, we love you. We want you to stay safe.
Stay sane.
Stay healthy.
And stay the fuck away from me.
Someone didn't look at the chat.
I did, but I forgot what part was Flo's. I can't think on my feet that fast.
I before we recorded, I was like, oh, when Shannon's not here, it makes sense I do hers, and when Flo's not here, it makes sense that he does hers.
Love it.
Yeah, I think I still
the same
have
thing
altitude
twice.
sickness from observing all those
Oh,
Gazes
the
of
racks.
Raccs
The racks.
from
yeah,
Crow
that'll-
Force One.
Yeah.
So that's probably what
You gotta
Right.
puts me off. You know?
you gotta
Yeah,
get in
yeah.
that recompression chamber.
Yeah, I got to get my pressurization cube.
Get your shit normalized.
All right, I'm gonna go do that then. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.